Hey guys, it's Helen Hart-Smith here again with
Kathy.
And we're here with another episode. This is 701 of the podcast. We're doing great.
Yeah,
the second podcast of the year, and it's only September.
Right?
So we actually have some special guests with us today. They are coven sisters. But we are going to use not their real names to protect their
Guilty.
Right. So whatever. So we have Cornflower. Say hello.
Hello.
And we have Tiger.
Hi.
They might. Hi. We're gonna just have a little conversation today. But first, we has business.
Yeah, business. Now, business is...
What is that? It's time for the correspondence of the week. So, as you all know, we are crafty witches. We like to do crafts. We like to do spell work. And, you put more than one of us together. Any one of us could do spell work, but, we're more likely to do something crafty and something spelly. So we've actually just worked some magic.
Yep.
And that is the subject of the correspondence
of the week.
So
we should probably mention where we got the stuff from. It's from
the Kick-Ass Coven by Amelia Wood.
Yeah, and the Kick-Ass Coven, How to Create a Witchy Sisterhood to Empower Yourself.
Yes.
Right. So she suggested a crystal, and she swears a lot, fucking clear spell where you use citrine to give you sunny vibes, clear quartz to attract positivity, amethyst to create a space of light and love. And we added
lapis lazuli
for
truth. So the idea behind this is that these are the kinds of energies that you want to pull into your space. And so we wanted to create some spell jars basically with these stone chips in them. And
but you could also do a bracelet or a necklace or anything that you
anything
want.
like that. So we each did like a little spell jar that we're going to carry with us and like have with us during coven events and such to help bring those types of things with us. And there's a couple of jars, larger jars that are going to be, they're both staying here. Is that what's happening?
Well, we made them because this weekend is going to be a coven weekend.
Right.
So we're doing a coven event at my house. Most everybody's going to be here. So I wanted one for the kitchen because that's where we're going to spend a lot of time, and one for the living room. But then when this weekend is over, we have a room in the basement that's really our coven room. We usually have an altar set up down there, and that's where we do most of our rituals. So having that in that space would bring nice, good energy to that area.
Right. So
now, if somebody wanted to take one of them home, we've been doing a lot of rituals at Cornflower's house. Corny's house.
Yeah, so that could happen too. So that would that was a fun thing, and we'll see how that works. And that was the correspondence of the week. Boy, these girls are super impressed.
Okay, so do you go by like TV seasons? Because it's episode 2 and we're in September, and you made it sound like that was an accomplishment.
It is.
It is an accomplishment because I went nearly a year without posting anything.
Oh, okay. So it is a January start date, not a September fall.
It's January.
Okay, you're not CBS.
Boy, I could point out, she's an active listener to the channel, isn't she?
Yeah. Oh.
But I won't.
We got some good content out there.
You know what? I rely on you guys to just give me the highlights, and I don't have to listen. I have 7 children. Where do I have time?
We should probably mention that the children are actually cats.
They're fur babies.
Yes.
Have you heard?
And her children.
Have you heard of herding cats?
Yeah.
It's as difficult as they make it sound.
It's like herding husbands.
I don't know about you, but I only have the one of those. And he is very well behaved, unlike felines.
Yeah.
So we were just sitting around the table being crafty, and I thought that this might be a fun opportunity to just kind of chat and get it on record, so to speak. So
we don't really have a topic this week.
Nope.
We just want to have some discussion. I'm not sure what we want to discuss. Do you have things to discuss, Corny?
Let's talk about sex. I'm just kidding. That was the first thing that came to mind, but just because of the musical reference, not because I actually want to talk about sex. Unless you guys want to.
This isn't that kind of show.
See?
No, we're more
do you want to
interested.
talk about salt and pepper?
I do enjoy salt and pepper. No, let's talk about some spiritual questions. I know what let's start off this. So the two of you have gone back to school.
Yes, we have.
So.
And our homework is due tomorrow.
Yep, first of the month.
I sent mine Tuesday just to make sure that it got sent in on time.
Okay, well, I'm sending mine tomorrow after I do one more
because
meditation.
I'm a Cancer with Virgo tendencies.
So Corny and Kathy they've just started year 2 of the Temple of Witchcraft Mystery School. And so why don't you guys, what's that all about?
Well, I mean, it's early yet. We're in the first month.
We're not allowed to tell you.
We'll have to kill you.
But, I mean, we can tell you because...
You've been through it.
I'll plug my ears.
No, I mean, it's interesting. The classes are good in general. You know, they go by the Temple of Witchcraft books.
So this one is the Outer Temple of Witchcraft.
Temple. So Joy you're going to have to edit that out.
It's fine. My real name sounds like my craft name.
It really does, and I mentioned that in the classroom because hers is the only one that's not a craft name that sounds like a craft name. But Corny and I finished the first year together a couple of years ago before the pandemic, and so now we're picking it back up. So it goes by the Temple of Witchcraft books, and then there's supplemental material and also a lecture that you have an MP3 of, and it's very interesting. Christopher is a very good teacher. The book is super helpful and interesting.
So the Outer Temple covers, you actually get into spellcraft, if I remember correctly. You talk about, but you've read it. I mean, why are you being obtuse? You've already read the book.
I read it so long ago.
I was going to say, I read... In fact, as I was reading, it was fun to see the things I highlighted 8 years ago when I read it the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I believe it's more of, the inner temple is kind of finding your inner spirituality, working on your connection to learning how to meditate, your connection to
energy sensing and manipulation.
And now it's using what you found outside. So it'll be rituals, spellcraft,
working directly with gods and goddesses. That's
the
what
wheel.
That's what we were doing this month, was working directly or attempting to contact and work directly with. Now, I mean, Corny and I have been doing witchcraft for years, so it's not necessarily something that we
are new
didn't have a connection before, because I believe we both have gods and goddesses that we work with on a regular basis. But if you didn't, then this would be a way to connect with that. So take notes if you ever decide to take on this, Tiger.
Did anyone new present to you?
I had a really interesting meditation today that Tiger interrupted me when she showed it tonight. I'm like in the middle of meditation and Paolo's talking to me. It's like, well, So I came up with this snake goddess, and she said her name was Nodo or Noldo, or I don't know. It was really weird. It's like she had snake eyes, and there were snakes around her feet, and so it was pretty interesting.
All I can think of is in Mulan, dragon. I don't do that tongue thing. When she keeps calling him a snake. Sorry.
But Apollo has a hard time with me connecting with any god except for him. So that's always fun trying to connect with someone else.
Boy, that sounds accurate, but sorry.
Yeah.
Boy,
Yeah.
and he gets offended if you call him out on it, apparently.
I
So
don't know.
I'm wondering, do you ladies have an opinion? Because you've talked about how you've been practicing for a long time. What do you feel like? Do you feel like you're getting something out of this course? I mean, it's new.
the first month.
It's the first month, but you're reviewing the material that
Right.
you've already read.
Right.
So, is there any sense yet of like newness? Is there something that you were like, oh yeah, or I don't remember
So,
that?
I
or,
had an oh yeah moment, the first lecture talked about perfect love and perfect trust, which is in the book. And, we have a sense as witches and in the circle of entering the circle in perfect love and perfect trust. And some traditions, it's better to throw yourself on the sword than not come in perfect love and perfect trust. But it's difficult, if not possible, to be in a circle with everyone that you have perfect love and perfect trust with, especially if you're in a public ritual, if you're in a convocation, pagan pride day or whatever. You have this big ritual where you don't know the people and maybe you don't like the people, right? So how can you be in that perfect love, perfect trust state with all of these people that you don't know or don't like?
Mm-hmm.
So he made an interesting point about you may not like the person, but you can still have perfect trust that this situation is right and good and correct for your higher self and your highest good.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought
that's
was
interesting.
very, very interesting. And I've been working on the perfect love, perfect trust ideology for years.
Mm-hmm.
But that just kind of hit home because, we've had people come in to our coven rituals, to open rituals, that afterwards I was like, we probably should invite them back, because I didn't feel that way.
Didn't jive.
Right. But would I have felt differently, or would I have had a different experience if I had trusted that experience was good and correct for that moment?
Mm-hmm.
That I was supposed to feel this and
Right.
experience this energy with this person to help me grow as a person, to help them grow as a person.
Right, because I think one thing that we've been lucky about as a coven is that we have that circle. We have that circle that we know that we can come to, that we can celebrate, that it's a safe space. But not everybody has that. And so not everyone, their only option is public events. And so they don't really necessarily have the luxury of being picky as to where, you can stay by yourself and you can celebrate and you can walk that solitary path. But I think that community has its importance as well. And so I think the big thing is there might be someone there and there could be like bad people or whatever there, but I think that you need to trust yourself.
Right.
And trust that you're there for a purpose, that there's some kind of a message or lesson to be learned or something.
And maybe
that's
not
what brought you
necessarily
there.
for you. Maybe that lesson is for somebody else that needs you there to learn that lesson.
And if you're present in that moment,
Right.
then you will get whatever it was that you needed.
Right.
But if you're worried about, well, so-and-so's here and they're sucking down the energy or whatever, then you're missing your point, maybe.
Right. Right.
You know, I think that there's a responsibility that we have to ourselves as pagans to find our place.
Mm-hmm.
And not only to find it, but to take it and say, this is mine. And it might not be an ideal situation, but this is the situation that I have, and I'm going to make the most out of it. You know, and kind of take that going forward.
So that was a kind of a different spin as someone who's been practicing for 20 years. That just, it kind of blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that even though I'm by no means a beginner, and this is material I already knew, the different spin on it made it fresh and just showed me something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that way? Not necessarily about that, but was there something that you...
I mean, honestly, I liken perfect love, perfect trust to family. You don't always like your siblings, but you always love and can rely on the fact that they have your back when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always been kind of the way that I have viewed it. So,
especially because this is like a chosen family.
Chosen family, yeah.
So, you know, yeah, you might have a disagreement with someone, but when it is time to cast your sacred space and do the work, you know that your sisters and brothers of your circle are there for that same purpose. Mm-hmm. You know, it'd be like, you know, if you were caring for an ill member of your family, you can rely on them to be there and offer that support as well while you're working.
Mm.
So that's kind of how I likened it, and I think there was even a line in either the book or the lecture where it was kind of that, you know, encompassing love like for a family.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts? Okay. Tiger's more here in she might be a little quieter and that's okay. Or we might get on a subject that she's all over. Who knows?
Who knows? She will sneak up on us later just like a tiger.
And we won't know how to handle it.
So, a watcher of the channel recently asked a question about dealing with guilt in terms of being pagan and dealing with guilt towards like their Christian past or their family. So
can you expound on that a little bit? Like guilty that they were pagan at one point, or guilty
that
they turned pagan
being
Christian?
I'm not entirely certain, so I kind of want to discuss maybe coming at it from both ways. So have any of you felt guilty about becoming pagan?
It's the one thing I don't feel guilty about.
Okay.
Because I carry a lot of guilt for everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the thing I'm supposed to be working on according to my goddess meditation. But anyway.
Because you come from a Christian background, right?
Christian light.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised a particular dominant denomination, but you know, attended church with friends, you know, did the Christmas service thing.
The house church thing.
Yep, explored a house church, went to Unitarian church for a bit. So, you know, I knew that there was something out there. I never really connected with the words of the Bible or, you know, basically the interpretation of and the way that I was supposed to connect. So it, you know, once I found other people who finally like understood and believed in the way that I believed, there was no guilt, because how could it have felt right if it wasn't right?
You're welcome.
I found it before you. I found you on the path, and I picked you up and brought you with me, like the injured little bird you were. I am the joy of your life, and you are happy to have me.
This is so true. You are the joy of my life.
Mm-hmm. What about you? Did you feel guilt about your conversion?
So I've always been a little bit pagan, even when I was younger. But I was very Christian growing up. We were Southern Baptist. I went to church all the time.
I know.
Yeah, I know, Nala. Yeah. Even after I was an adult, I continued to go to church, and even when I met Randy, I was still at that point mostly a practicing Christian, even though I wasn't going to church. And my family's always been very devout Christian. So it's not, I don't think I ever felt guilt turning toward paganism. I'm not sure I even felt bad that, oh, look, my family now has to deal with the pagan person in the family. I more get irritated that my siblings are, you're going to go to hell. Although they don't say it to my face. Mm-hmm. I feel irritated that they won't have the discussion with me to find out why I turned away from Christianity and why I turned to paganism. I kind of felt bad for my mom because I tried to help her to understand that all religions really have a grain of commonality. And it's just semantics. Somebody said that last night. All these religions, they all have the same idea. It's just how you practice it. It's semantics. So she tried to understand as much as she could, but I don't think I've ever been guilty about going to paganism. Now, I can see where somebody would if they were given, my family's never really pressured me, and if I was the type to cave to pressure, which I'm totally not the kind to cave to pressure, then I could see where I could feel guilty that I put them through this, that I turned away from the right and just path. But that's just not me. It's not me. And I know myself enough to know that that's not anything that I could follow, and with a I don't have that truth in my heart. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to feel guilty. I don't feel guilty about not having that truth in my heart. Mm-hmm. It's all the same God. It's just how you get there.
Right. And I've talked about the fact that I had a progression. A lot of people had like a light switch moment of coming to paganism, where mine was a progression. I had this idea about a universal deity and then found out afterward that it's actually a pagan concept. So I felt no guilt at all. Have you experienced any guilt?
I have not.
Yeah. Has anyone had family members that made them feel guilty about their path?
No. My mom is actually very supportive. She asks a lot of questions and she's curious.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And she thinks it's cool.
Yeah, again, I just get angry because I know that my path was my brother raised my granddaughter, and he never let me get her for weekends or, spend time with her other than at Christmas or Mother's Day. And I know it was because I'm pagan, but again, it's because he didn't have that conversation with me.
Right.
So I'm angry about that, but he never tried to because he's never talked to me about it. He's never had that conversation. Mm-hmm. His wife made my granddaughter block me. Again, that's not my guilt. That's their guilt. Mm-hmm. They are guilty of not trying to understand other people. Right. They are guilty of rejecting me as a person when they don't even know me.
Sure. Yeah. Right. And I mean, your brother should know you in the aspect that you grew up in the same house together.
And we were very close up until the point where he got married and I had Nikki. Mm-hmm. We were very, very close. Mm-hmm. And now it's like
It's like that didn't even happen.
never
that
happened.
first
Nope.
that first part of your life.
Right.
Joy, any guilt from family about anything?
Honestly, I think most of them don't really understand that I'm not actually Christian anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, not really. It's just, I don't think they understand
What it is.
that what I do is not actually
Mm-hmm.
Christian. But again, no one in my family is specifically Christian or particularly devout. They're more of a, probably
Like
more
a fringe.
agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in a higher power, but
Mm-hmm. I've actually had I've gotten into some discussions with family members. I have this label in my family as being like the nut. Like I'm always the one that's
it's
got
not just
something.
in your family.
Yeah. I'm the one that always has something alternative going on in my existence. And so I think that like they understand that it's a big thing for me because they know that I can perform weddings and things like that. But I actually had a conversation with my aunt about a book that I read recently about the death midwifery. And I talked to her about the book and she actually asked to borrow the book.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm going to take that book and let her borrow. I said, I need to film a review first. But as soon as I film the review, of course you can borrow it. So, I always make it a point to, I go out of my way sometimes to show the respect that I have for them and their path. Because my cousin Ashley is very supportive and she's also very, she has a love of God and that's fine. But we've had conversations.
Right. So, and the difference too is that your family is actually attempting to live by the word of Jesus, and where my family, at least my brother, has joined the Christian right. I guess I won't use that word. The Christian nationalist movement. So they're in the cult basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's different than my sister, who is actually a Jesus following Christian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually, I've had conversations, my roomie, her sister and her sister's family are Baptist. And, the roomie's niece, trying to leave her name out of it because she hasn't said, yeah, you can talk about me. But she has she's 20, she'll be 25. And we've had conversations. Like when she was a baby, in talking with the roomie's sister, I said that, I would never tell the niece, and she's my niece too. She calls me aunt and everything else. I told her mom that I would never go into what my religion was when she was too young to understand. And it wasn't until my niece, I'm just going to call her my niece, was in college that we had conversations about things. Now she just started graduate work and she's doing a class and she had to do, she's got to do a presentation or a paper or something like that where she had to talk about a religion not of her own. And she decided to do Wicca because of conversations with me. And so we've had some exchanges recently. And it's kind of interesting because I didn't correct her, but I, shared with her just some of the basics, what I thought things were. And I also told her, if you talk to 10 pagans, you'll get 10 different answers as to what they are, who they are, and things like that. And, it was very cool because I was actually concerned about what a relationship with her was going to be like as an adult. because she's very into her truth, and that's fine, but that doesn't always come out well for family members that aren't part of that.
Right.
So that experience was just like in this last week here. And so I felt like I had maybe established a seed of potential, because I'm not going to try to convert her to my way of thinking, and she knows that she's not going to convert me. But if we have the dialogue and have the respect and the acceptance of one another, that is what, as a society, I feel that's where we need to be.
Well, and if we can discuss things, then we can recognize the commonalities in our belief systems.
Right. We've talked about this so many times.
Because there's so many commonalities. There's more things that we have in common with a person from South Africa than we have that are differences.
Correct.
It's the human experience, and we all have spiritual moments, and we all have experiences, and so much of it is common, but because we don't talk about it, it's seen as other, it's seen as different, and yeah, it's really frustrating.
Mm-hmm. So, have any of you, because even if we're not major Christians, we live in a society where we're kind of driven a little bit by Christian values, okay? By Christian holidays and things like that. So someone had asked at one point, how do you keep your traditions while exposed to others? And I think a major example of that would be Christmas. We as Wiccans, I mean, am I safe to say that we're all Wiccans? I'll stick with pagans.
More or less, yeah.
We celebrate Yule.
Right.
That's our holiday.
Right.
But we're forced to celebrate Christmas because, that's the days we get off from work.
Well, it's kind of like Thanksgiving, isn't it? I mean, Thanksgiving is not a religious holiday in any way, shape, or form.
Correct. So
to me, Christmas is not a religious holiday in any way, shape, or form, but it's still a day that I get together with family and we have good food and we talk. Mm-hmm. That's what it is for me. I have no religious connection at all, no spiritual connection with Christmas, but I still like to see our kids that come over on Christmas Eve. And sorry, we have a biting cat. And I'm so sorry. Did she drop blood?
We'll see. A little bit.
I'm so sorry.
Are you though?
I am. Because usually she bites me.
You wouldn't let me bring my own cat.
Ugh,
Rude.
I'm so sorry.
Do you have an alcohol swab?
Yes, I do. So, somebody else talk about Christmas while I go find an alcohol.
So, have you ever felt like you couldn't do? I feel like we just get like a bonus holiday in terms of Yule.
I mean, honestly, I celebrate in the spirit of Yuletide, the 21st through the 26th. Everyone else is gathered for the reason that they are, birth of Jesus, but it's the birth of the sun god. So that's just how I look at it. Oh, thank you. Such a nice girl. I mean, again, poor parenting. My babies don't bite. Okay, fine. Sometimes Baxter.
They've never met Nala.
Yeah, I mean, Yule is kind of like the big one.
She aimed for the vein. Look at that.
But I mean, I can't think. Easter, I guess. Easter to me just seems like way more pagan than Christian to begin with.
Yeah, and
so,
I'm to the point now when I don't know when Easter is. Somebody says it's Easter, and I'm like, what? It's
Yeah.
Easter? I have no idea.
Yeah, like I'm kind of oblivious to things too. So yeah, I think Christmas is like the big thing. And I mean, I guess I have an understanding that the holidays that we celebrate as Wiccans, I know I celebrate with my coven.
Right.
And any other holiday
Do you need help?
is more family oriented.
Right.
So
Because it's not like when I was small, we used to bake a cake for Jesus because it was his birthday. And I have to say, that was me.
That was a
Because I always thought we had to bake a cake for Jesus. And apparently my mom tells me that we couldn't go in a store and see a Jesus picture without me wanting to buy it. I'm like, why? But anyway.
You just
Okay.
like cake.
Yeah, so,
I'm pretty sure it was just an excuse for cake.
Possibly. So from the time I was like 15 or so, Christmas never really we didn't go to church on Christmas. We didn't go to Mass. We never did any of that stuff. So Christmas didn't really have that religious connection other than it was Jesus' birthday.
yeah.
We had more of an Easter connection than we had a Christmas connection.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing about like traditions that are pagan versus Christian. Those traditions you can establish and you can practice them. Like say you're the only pagan in a family. You do those things and you observe them on your own.
Right.
You can say a separate meal blessing, in your head that's specific to how you feel. And nobody has to know.
And we don't anymore, but when we used to do family Easter dinner, my brother would always pray, and I would translate that in my head to a prayer to the goddess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, there's definitely things that you might find yourself more on the QT with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see why you have to stop or not observe what is important to you.
Right.
Because you can do it respectfully as well.
And yes, our holidays in the U.S. do revolve around Christian holidays, but that doesn't mean that we can't appreciate getting Good Friday off if your company gives you Good Friday off. Does it suck when we can't get the solstice off? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sucks that we have to plan our celebrations for the weekend or what have you.
Well, I mean, we don't have to. We could plan to take the day off of work, but that is taking a day off, and sometimes it's not financially feasible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
that part sucks. But I mean, I don't know
we're
that
not the only religion that has that problem,
right? Because I don't know that Jewish holidays.
Jewish people don't get their holidays. Muslims don't get their holidays. It's really just the Christians that get. And really the big ones are just, Good Friday, Easter, and Christmas, right?
Really Easter and... Well, no, really
Easter's on
Christmas.
Sundays.
Yeah, because Easter is on a Sunday.
Yeah, a lot of companies I've worked for,
But
we've had Good Friday. You could
only,
leave early.
in the last 20 years, I've only had one company that gave me Good Friday off with pay.
I never have.
Yeah.
Mine
That was because they were Catholic. The owners were Catholic.
I got a half day.
Yeah, mine were either a half day if you wanted it, or if you were going to church, they would give you a half day.
Wait, did you have to get like a permission slip?
You
from
had to
church?
actually be going to church.
Priest note.
I don't
Does
know.
that have a doctor's note?
I don't know. I
Prove it.
yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I think I think there's some good stuff there. So I've got one final question.
I don't like that look on her face.
I don't either. I thought this was going to be fun and lighthearted.
And then you got bit.
I mean, first there was the soul searching and then the wedding.
No, I just have one question. And I don't think it's that bad, but I think it's interesting. What about witchcraft scares you?
This was my question, by the way.
This was your question? You're the reason I wrote it down in my idea book?
Yep, because I saw it on TikTok.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not actually scared of witchcraft since I am a witch. However,
No, but
I guess I can answer this two ways. The one thing that scares me is some people who claim to be witches and use and abuse the culture. You know, they're the reason we can't have nice things because, oh, well, I knew this Wiccan who, cast the spell and, did all this other stuff. And, are you like that? And I'm like, no, I'm not like that. And chances are they weren't a true Wiccan if they were, casting,
or they
throwing hexes and taking money for love spells and things like that.
Or they say or act in ways that are to shock people rather than under true belief. Like the devil worshippers. Your true Satanists are not the devil worshippers that that are so popular in pop culture. It's that part is scary. And what scares me is that we might have another one of the satanic panic things roll through like they had in the 90s where people were going to jail because of Satan worship when there was proof of it and no basis and it never happened.
What?
Like that daycare in Texas where the kids were claiming that they were flushed down the toilet to secret tunnels underneath the daycare and then whisked off on jets to somewhere where they would be molested, and the courts believed this story.
That's
and
not
put
how
people in
plumbing
jail.
works, right?
It's just not Harry Potter. There were people in jail up until just a few years ago, like 20 years in jail.
I mean, like a hair tie will clog my toilet. You think I'm going to get a child down there?
And there was absolutely no truth to any of the accusations of child molestation, ritual child molestation. So I'm afraid with the Christian nationalist movement that's going on in this country and that whole thing that we might come back to that. And I have been too far out as a witch for too long to go back in the damn broom closet.
True.
So that scares me.
Especially because I use my broom closet as a pantry now.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you?
One of the closets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I guess there are at least snacks back in the closet.
But when we first started out, there were fears of spells going awry, like your love spell.
Mm-hmm. It could have been dangerous.
Yes, it could have been very dangerous. And if you're not careful with boundaries and energy work and things of that nature, you can call in something that you don't intend to call in and not know how to handle that and control it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid of that anymore, but when we were, did you know baby witches is apparently passé now?
I say piss on that and I use baby witch.
Okay, good. When we were baby witches, I don't think that ever happened to us, but there was like a niggling fear that we would do something that would get out of control.
Mm-hmm.
But we've learned enough, I believe, in the last 25 years.
Right.
7, 30.
Caution. B, if you go into it with for the highest good, harming none,
Right.
I mean that helps. I guess I've never really run into that, but I've never done a spell without doing the research.
Right. The boundaries,
working on the intent and making sure that it is very clear. Because again, there are things that could go awry. I mean, honestly, like muggles will, man, I could really just use an influx of cash. Oh, someone just rear-ended me, but at least the insurance company sent me a check. You just did magic. You didn't, and of course you didn't think about the fact that I should have done for the highest good, harming none, because, I gotta go see a chiropractor now for my neck.
But, when you think about it, when we were starting out, that's straight out of Christopher.
Yes.
And we hadn't gotten that far yet.
No, we haven't.
And that's why we stress to new people that come to us, new Wiccans, new baby witches that come to us. We share those lessons that we learned, so that, hopefully it doesn't happen. And luckily nothing bad happened. And I think that, that also there's some truth in that, there are spirits that are out there that are guiding you, that are protecting you as well.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's definitely an element to spellcraft. For me, I'm not afraid of anything or scared of anything. Scared is an interesting word because there's levels of scaredness.
I'm cautious about things, but I'm not afraid of things.
I'm interested.
Respect for.
Yes.
I'm interested. I want to come back to what Joy was talking about initially. I want to talk about so when we started on this path, Wicca and witchcraft really was hand in hand.
Yeah, it was considered by a lot of people the same thing.
It was like two sides of the same piece of bread, almost. And now, I am on social media, but I don't live on social media. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Reddit. I'm not on Tumblr or whatever. But I am seeing some folks that there seems to be a leaning towards witchcraft as the science, the art and science of the manipulation of energy to bring about change. People are into that, but they're not into being Wiccan. They're not into the religious aspect of it.
There are several atheist witches on TikTok.
And that is a little concerning to me because how many broad paint strokes are going to be painted on Wiccans, pagans, because of that. I think it'll be interesting to see how some of that plays out. And hopefully it's not in a negative way. So.
I mean, you can't judge all Christians by the radical Christians.
Right.
You can't judge
no matter
all
how
witches.
much you want to.
I have some very nice, very respectful Christian friends.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few who've even done spells with me. Because, again, the intent was for healing.
Right.
We're going to pick this candle, we're going to grab this herb, and we're going to put this stone down, and we're going to light it.
Yeah.
With the intent for healing.
Right.
But, you can't judge every Christian by the bad ones. You can't judge every Wiccan or witch by the,
outliers.
The ones who are doing it for the shock value or are claiming to be Wiccan or witches, but not actually, again, not really following the Wiccan read or even, the rule of 3 for basic witchcraft.
I think like a big thing that I live by is that I am always prepared and I always take the step back to define things when I'm talking to someone who's like outside of our circle.
Because people define different words in different ways.
Right.
So if you ask somebody what is a witch and they have a completely different definition of it, then you still have to find that middle ground.
Exactly. I want it to be clear what I'm talking about.
Right.
When I say X, Y, and Z, because that with the conversation with my niece, let's define words first, you know, and things like that. So I think that's important to remember, that part of our responsibility with this path that we walk is that we're going to be educating people.
Mm-hmm.
That's just part of it.
We're going to be educating, and we are setting an example.
Exactly.
We are the walking, talking, living, breathing example for most people that we come in contact with of what a witch and or pagan is, because they don't know witches, pagans, or they don't know that they know witches, pagans.
Right.
So
For the most part, I'm kind of boring. I think they're disappointed.
So those of us who are out and proud, we're that example that people can see that, hey, she's a witch, but she's not green and doesn't have a warty nose and isn't sacrificing babies.
Right. That, you know, it was interesting. So
I don't like babies enough to grab one to sacrifice.
Right.
Too close. Too close.
the roomie in the conversation with my niece, the roomie was like, she made the point because my niece asked, what are some stereotypes that you would like to like set straight or whatever.
Right.
And the roomie said that not all witches smell like sandalwood, wear floor length broom skirts,
So we all want
were professionals, were family members, were
Right.
you know, were upstanding people in
We're
the
your
community.
neighbors.
Right.
We're your coworkers.
Right.
We're your
And
brothers
I thought,
sisters.
and I was appreciative that she, as someone who isn't pagan, brought that to the conversation.
Right.
So that means that I have
people.
educated her. She is good people.
Right.
I've educated her enough that she's that, you know, she's a voice.
Right.
She's a voice when I'm not, or whatever. So, all right. Well, I think this was a nice conversation.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I enjoyed listening to y'all.
Okay, then. Well, so we're going to wrap this up.
Sure.
So there will be links for social media in the description box.
And that book.
And the book, yes. And I will be doing a review of that book too, because I have finished reading that
Yeah, I
book.
haven't, but it's good so far.
Yeah. So look for that in the future. Maybe if Kathy speed reads, we can talk about it together.
I'd love to read it, but I'm just so offended by those dirty language.
It's pretty bad, actually.
So if you liked this content and want something more like it, then let me know. I think this was kind of cool to have this kind of a discussion, especially for us as sisters. You know, to share these things is a good thing.
Right.
So if you enjoyed it or learned something from it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button and hit the bell notification, because apparently that's a thing and helps. It'll let you know when I post a new video here on the channel. So that's going to be it for this podcast.
Where's the wine? You promised me wine.
That's for tomorrow.
I brought some.
Yay.
Oh, look,
Yay.
there you go.
Yeah,
All right, so we're gonna go drink some wine now.
All right.
Thanks for hanging out and for listening, and more importantly, thanks for walking the path for a little while with us. Until next time, blessed be.